John Clifford Jones, 51. Stanley James Bodman, 47. John Rowlands, 46. Charles Harper Gray, 44. James Frederick Caddick, 40. James Goodlick Craig, 34. Trevor George Thrupp, 33. Michael William Beasley, 30. Thomas Frederick Chater, 28. Eugene Thomas Riley, 23. Marilyn Paula Nash, 22. Maureen Ann Roberts, 20. Desmond William Riley, 20. Stephen John Wally, 21. Anne Hayes, 19. Pamela Joan Palmer, 19. Maxine Hambleton, 18. Lynn Jane Bennett, 18. Paul Anthony Davis, 17. Jane Elizabeth Davis, 17. Neil Robert Marsh, 17. The 21 people whose names I have read out were fathers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, all much loved and cherished Brummies. Nearly 44 years ago, on the 21st of November, they were among hundreds of people who were out in Birmingham meeting family and friends for a drink. The two bombs exploded in two city centre bars, the Mulberry Bush and the Tavern in the Town. If you're not aware of where this was, it was literally just down the road. Literally, it was just a third of a mile down the road. If you had been here in Victoria Square on that night, you would have heard the bombs go off and witnessed the ensuing panic in the city. Quite apart from the 21 who died, almost 200 were injured and many were left with life-changing physical and psychological problems that haunt them to this day. Many of the dead were young women and men, some only in their teens. They were never to pursue careers, never to be married, never to experience children, never to enjoy years of family life with their nearest and dearest, or to see their own children have children. We think most were killed instantly, but we're not sure. We've never had the opportunity to find out. And what were their deaths for? When our loved ones were murdered, the cowards who committed this atrocity didn't only kill innocents, they also destroyed the lives of all those families who continue to grieve the loss of their loved ones today, we included. All our lives were changed forever on the 21st of November 1974. None of us who continue to strive to be the best we can in the memory of our loved ones, in the memory of our father, mother, brother, sister, son or daughter, will ever be who we should have been. That's because gutless murderers not only extinguished lives immediately, in the process they destroyed all our lives over the subsequent years, leaving a stain on our great city that continues to embed itself into the streets, the air, all our lives, and that of the country. Some people make cold comments such as, "Move on, they're dead." It's because they're dead we can't move on. That's because we've never been told the truth about what happened. How can this be? Why are we having to fight for truth, justice and accountability? Why should their names be buried and forgotten about? It's as if their lives never mattered. Well, guess what? They matter to us. There is a saying, the benchmark of a civilised society is the quality of its justice. Let me throw this out to you. Imagine 43 years down the line in 2051, the families of the Manchester bombing victims are having to fight to get truth, justice and accountability. They are having to literally beg for equal rights in legal funding. Isn't that a horrifying thought? When my brother and I, Brian, began to campaign over 7 years ago alongside Luddy, where are you? He's here, and many of his football supporters, my family and I never had an agenda. We didn't strategise. We simply had and continue to have the belief that we have right on our side, that morally, legally and ethically we deserve to know what happened. Now we fight not only for the 21 who were murdered en masse nearly 44 years ago, but we fight for all families who have lost loved ones, particularly where there is alleged state involvement. We have been denied legal aid not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not even 5 times. We have been denied legal aid as of yesterday 6 times. I repeat that, we have been denied legal aid 6 times. We need the funding to enable us to have legal representation on par with the coroner and all other public sectors, so we can continue to fight to find out the truth once and for all. Who did bomb Birmingham? How is it that we've been refused legal aid 6 times when it has been provided to so many others? For instance, the Hillsborough families were given funding from the Home Office's own budgets. They didn't have legal aid. And they had no limit, quite rightly so. And we are so happy for the Hillsborough families, of whom we support shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart. In contrast to that, I think you'll be horrified to discover that the Chief Superintendent, David Duckenfield, who was in charge of Hillsborough on the day of the disaster, made an application just last year for legal aid to cover his costs for his defence on the charges that are being brought against him. And the judge in December has stated that, quote, the High Court application for David Duckenfield's application involved factual and legal issues of complexity and significant public importance. You may be interested to also know that David Duckenfield, who is also was a public servant, is now retired, also received £7.5 million of legal aid for the Hillsborough inquest and defending a private prosecution. £7.5 million of legal aid. In contrast to that, you then have John Warboys, the convicted rapist, who has personal assets worth £1 million. His legal team was awarded £166,000 of legal aid. Where is the equality to be found for the 21 families of the Birmingham pub bombings in this mix? Is the murder of 21 innocents not of significant public importance for the truth to be known?
Justice for the 21, justice for the 21, justice for the 21, justice for the 21, justice.
Thank you.
For the 21, justice.
If we want to live in a society that is truly democratic, one that follows the rule of law, then it is time for everyone to wake up and smell the stench of double standards that has taken hold across our country. Because if we do not act now, peacefully, but with resolute purpose, then your children's, grandchildren's and great-grandchildren's future will be in a country which is rotten to the core. Everyone deserves a voice and legal representation, whether they are a criminal or a victim. As it stands, that is not the case in England or Wales. It appears that the odds are stacked against victims and their families. This is not rhetorical or a polarised view. We are living proof of past and current governments' two-tier modus operandi, which is what we believe to be our so-called judiciary system. The silence from 98% of all MPs across the UK has been deafening. Today we ask you, we plead with you, we beg you, please write to your MPs, ask them, what are you doing for the families of Justice for the 21? The Birmingham pub bombings was the biggest loss of life in peacetime history of the 20th century and continues to be the longest unsolved mass murder. What is the point in voting for these people if they don't do what they're meant to do, which is to represent their constituent and everyone across the country who pay them their salaries and provide them with their gold-plated pensions? Justice for the 21 needs you, and everybody across the country. Please help us to gain equal legal funding rights for all, where we can one day state with confidence throughout the United Kingdom that the benchmark of a civilised society is the quality of its justice, because we have successfully fought for it, seen it in action, and are satisfied that it is true. It is not so much what we say, but what we do and how we do it that truly defines us for who we are. The families of Justice for the 21, the true and democratic F.L.A, would like to thank all of you for travelling far and wide to be with us on this momentous day, but we would respectfully ask you all to please be respectful throughout the day, if for no other reason but to remember our loved ones who are not here to fight for truth, justice and accountability themselves. Today, we honour them. Thank you.
Justice for the 21. Justice for the 21. Justice for the 21. Justice for the 21.
Red Pill Phil, guys, like and subscribe.